Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. It is time for the ISRL Division 1 Championship here at round 15 out of 16. It is the penultimate round of the championship here, and we are at the United States Grand Prix here in COTA in the wonderful state of Texas. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Happy you could be jumping into the stream as we are just getting ready to kick off our full qualifying session. Now, as mentioned, it is the Division 1 Championship. It is the penultimate round here, getting down to the nitty-gritty, and we've got a pretty full grid here for the Division 1 Championship. 17 drivers here that'll take us through our full qualifying session. A lot of familiar faces that we've grown accustomed to seeing and love here through the entirety of the championship. And leading into this qualifying session, we are, excuse me as I pull up the standings here, not the incidents, the standings here. We are looking at Schiaparelli, who is leading the way in the championship. He finds himself in that Alfa Romeo here, but very close behind, as Schiaparelli is actually just heading out on track now. Very close behind is Isaac Kush in the Alpha Tauri. And it appears as though, yes, he is here, just hiding on my list. And Josh, too, rounding out the top three. They are the three drivers to keep an eye out here in the battle for the Drivers' Championship. Schiaparelli leading the way with 356 points. Isaac Kush in second now with 341 points. And Josh, too, in a bit of a distant third here with 322 points. But we still have a battle for fourth position as well, as we have Ariel Wouter, the other Williams, who surprisingly does not appear to be here today. From what I'm seeing, I'm only seeing one Mercedes driver, so unable to make it. And between he and Eklund, who both have 270 points, there's a big battle on our hands. So Eklund already at a bit of an advantage here in this Drivers' Championship here on the penultimate race, as all he needs to do is score points to get ahead of that driver ahead, Ariel Wouter, who is the three-time defending champion, but has definitely had his work cut out for him here in the most difficult and most exciting season yet. But here in COTA, we are going through our full qualifying session with 17 drivers on the grid. Your goal here is to just not be in those bottom two positions by the time that qualifying time on your top left hits 0 and all the laps are done. If you're in that position 16th through 17th, that's it. You are out of qualifying. Take a seat, and then we move on to qualifying 2. Then in Q2, it's essentially the same idea, but you're looking to make it through into the top 10 rather than the top 15. Then, of course, after that, we do it one more time. It's the top 10 shootout, and that is where we decide the order of the top 10 drivers. Those who are eliminated in the process in Q1 and Q2, they start the race in that position in which they are eliminated on. Now, Schiaparelli, as he's going through his first flying lap here of the session, a bit of an invalidation for him. He extends those track limits just a tiny little bit too much here on this initial lap, and that is going to be it. That is going to be it for his first lap of the session, but still loads of time to go, loads of time to get that done here. And crucially, right as I switch over to Isaac Kush, who was right behind, that's an invalidated lap for him as well. So already we're seeing these big runners pushing for these very quick lap times, but of course high risk, high reward here. And around COTA, you are going to get really bitten if you are not careful about your track limits in this session. Very, very difficult to get right, and the track limits can be very costly in qualifying, of course, because that's going to prove to be the end of your lap, as we saw with the likes of Schiaparelli and Isaac Kush. But of course, in the race, you're going to get a lot of time penalties if you cut the corners a little bit too much, and those time penalties can be added to your time, make you lose a couple positions in the process if you're not careful. So something to keep an eye out here in this qualifying, in this race. But Josh, too, coming around the track now as he's going to set the first lap. It's a 134.3, very quickly beaten by Enosia Rotation, who is who's reserving in a Haas here this week. He finds himself with a 129.777 mark after a solid drive in Division 2. He goes second fastest here with a 130.143 with 3 times on the board so far. Let's switch over as Andon is about to come around the final corner in that racing point as he heads towards the line. What's the time going to be? It's going to be third fastest for him. It's a 130.6 here. Still early stages in this qualifying session as still 13 minutes to go, a little bit under 13 minutes to go now in this qualifying session in Q1. So we'll see how it all plays out. We've spoken a little bit about the Drivers' Championship. Now, if I take a look at the Constructors' Championship, a bit of a different story here, still close nonetheless, as we have the Williams Racing Team, that is of Josh 2 and what should be the Ariel Wouter, who are leading the way, 592 points. Now, second, close behind, is the Alfa Romeos of Chapelelli and the driver on your screen here, Jamie 93. They are in second with 534 points. The AlphaTauris of Izat Kush and currently Ryan Malta, they are in third in this constructors. They have a little bit more of a distant 464 points. But then then down in fourth and fifth, we've got the Renaults and the McLaren, only separated by 3 points. Renaults with 375, McLaren with 372 points. So, as far as these battles are concerned, it's still very close. Gonna come down to the wire here for some of these battles, but it's going to be very exciting here, I think, leading into this race and of course the finale once we do get to it next weekend. But we still have a long ways to go before we can even start talking about the finale. It's still only Q1 here in this session. Rotation, he's very happy with that lap, he said. He's retired out of Q1, unsurprisingly breaking into the 129s, and it's a very solid lap in the 129s to say the least. So he is currently on the top of the leaderboards. He in theory, should be moving on to Q2, but we'll have to see how the pace of these drivers progresses through the course of this qualifying session, as the track is going to get quicker, the drivers are going to get more accustomed to running laps, more accustomed to their braking zones, and we're going to see the times start to get much quicker. Now, here in Q1, not much in terms of strategy calls here. Lots of drivers opting to put laps on those soft tires. Just use the quickest tire, get through into that Q2 position. It's a little bit of a race sim, a little bit of qualifying sim, I should say, for a lot of these drivers getting ready for possibly Q3, getting ready for possibly the race here. Now, qualifying 2, which is the next session, is where we're going to see a little bit more strategy come into play. We can talk about that more once we get there, as Nathan JB sets a 130.056. So a solid lap time for Nathan JB as he puts himself up into P2. AJ Wuhan, on the other hand, he gets right ahead. He goes ahead of Nathan JB, and he goes second fastest now. It's a 129.800, a tiny little bit slower than the time set by Rotation early on in this session. Now, let's switch over to Chapelelli, who is on another lap right now, looking to have it much cleaner this time around. Figured out what he did wrong, got it sorted out as he is flying around here in that Alfa Romeo, looking to head towards the line and set his first lap here, the championship leader, and we'll see if he can grow that gap now. Of course, Izat Kush, who set a lap time previously, that's going to be tough to beat. Now, it looked like he did set a fastest lap, a 129.3, but he went way wide on the exit of the final corner while doing it, so that was very quickly removed by the stewards. So another costly mistake from Chapelelli, as that is another lap time just out of the window for the Alfa Romeo driver. Now, I'll switch over to the Red Bull. It's Stu Will, who is currently on a lap coming around the final corner. Looks like he might have had a little bit of help, a little bit of a tow from his teammate. He goes 8th fastest with a 130.688. It's telling me it's the fastest lap, but that obviously is not the case. As you can see, the fastest lap is a 129.4 set by Izat Kush. Ferg now supposedly has the fastest lap, quote unquote, according to this game, which I do not think is the case. We'll see what Ryan Malta can do. He had a very, very strong showing. I believe it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, and looking to continue that in the AlphaTauri here. I believe it was last week in Spain, where he didn't necessarily have all that much practice. Jumped in a time trial for about an hour or so, 20 minutes, and pumped out a solid drive. Here, once again, I'm not too sure about the practice, if he had a little bit more, if he had more advance about the reserve, but he sets a 1:29.918, and he goes fourth fastest here in qualifying one, just behind the time set by AJ Wuhan. Isaac Kush still heading the way. Josh, too, he's got a 1:34.3, so a very pedestrian lap time, as he finds himself in the wall right now, having a little bit of fun with that suspension. So we'll let him do what he wants to do there in that wall, as he's probably going to get back on track, or at least we hope. But let's stick over. Let's take a look at Netsky. Netsky has had some solid drives here as of late, ever since jumping into that Renault in Division 1. Looking to continue that momentum here in this qualifying. Isaac Kush is happy with his time. He retires out of Q1. But back to Netsky. Like I said, he's been on an absolute tear ever since jumping into that Renault seat full-time here in Division 1. And we'll have to see if he can continue onwards on this tear. We'll see how he goes here with his first lap time in qualifying 1. Heading around the final corner now, pushing those track limits to the absolute limit of the car of what he's allowed to do. And it works out for him. It's a 1:29.353. Ryder Dahl with a 1:29.420. So two very fast times, one behind another here in this qualifying time, and looks to be very quickly, if you're not within the 129s or low 130s possibly, it does not look like you're going to make it through in qualifying 2. Jamian, he sets a 1:30.101, only 8th fastest for him here. But of course, like I mentioned, your goal is to get through into the top 15 here. You're not trying to go fastest. That's for a little bit later. Here comes Jamie 93 back at it again, looking to set a flying lap once again here in that number 99 Alfa Romeo. And we'll see how it's going to work out for him here, as when he's heading around through the S sections here. We'll ride on board. You can see the S sections a little bit difficult. I don't think he's on a lap though, as he's going very slowly through these through this section. And like I said, that's an invalidation for good measure. He's got Josh 2 a little bit further behind. Josh 2 on an out lap, looking to set one more flying lap, as he is currently on the bubble. But we have the likes of Chapelelli, Eklund, and Jamie 93 who have yet to set lap times. So if you're sitting in that position of Josh 2, DeWill, and then it's a little bit worrisome here. Even the likes of Feral Fury and Knight, who are sitting right around P11. Lots can change here between now and the end of this Q1 session. Lots of quicker times are going to start falling, so you've got to keep an eye out. You've got to be aware. You're going to want to be on track here at the last possible moment, so you can set that time, and you're going to have to make it. You're going to have to make it pretty perfect, if I'm being honest. But here we go. Chapelelli now starting what could very well be his final flying lap of qualifying 1, heading through turn 1. And we'll stick with him for a little bit at the very least. We'll see what he can do here on this flying lap. Third time's the charm for him, as he came so close on his second flying lap to set that lap, but just pushed it a little bit too wide around the final corner. Was not able to, he did go fastest, but was not able to keep that lap. The stewards very quickly took that away from him. But we'll see how if he can get it done here, right now. He's going to have possibly a Haas car for a little bit of help down this back straight. That might be Feral Fury, as Feral Fury is heading towards on an outlap, it appears, quickly getting out of the way. Chapelelli is going to say thank you very much for the tow, as he gets into the braking zone, through into Sector 3 now. One of the trickier portions of the circuit, other than the S's here. And especially this corner, this left-hander, you can see a big lockup. Very easy to unsettle the car on the exit of that corner as well. But if you get that right, you set yourself up perfectly for the sweeping right-hander to lead into the penultimate corner here. Approaching the final corner now is Schiaparelli. Let's take a look. A little bit of a lock up there, but he's going to head towards the line. I think it's going to be a good lap here. It's a 1:29.776. So not the fastest lap from Schiaparelli, but still a very good lap, and should put him through relatively comfortably into qualifying 2 here, as Jamie 93 coming through Sector 3. Eklund, he is approaching the end of Sector 2, so we'll stick with Jamie 93 coming around the final corner. Oh no, and it's an invalidation for Jamie, as very quickly takes a Yui into the pit lane, and very much not happy with that, just extending those track limits a tiny little bit too much there, and that is possibly the quite possibly the end of his qualifying, unless he's able to get one last lap in. But he's going to have to push as hard as he can, really rush to get those tires, those fresh set of tires on the car. Eklund crosses the line, only 12th fastest for the Renault driver, as that's a 1:30.349. So Josh 2 finds himself on the outside looking in, but he appears to be on a flying lap right now. 2/10 faster through into Sector 1. We'll stick with the Williams driver, as more drivers are retiring out of Q1. They're happy with their times. They're going to take what they can and hope that it's good enough to make it through into qualifying 2. With 2 minutes to go in qualifying, you're seeing lots of drivers either on a flying lap right now or on an out lap. And from what I'm seeing and from what I heard, it appears as though my co-commentator has jumped in. Ephraim, are you here with us at all?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone who's watching the ISRL Division 1. It's very exciting as well, because right now we're getting to the last of the championship. And this track, it keeps up surprising us, because there's a lot of corners where these guys can lose their limits, they exceed their track limits. And it's going to be exciting. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be taking us through this great race. We've had solid races in Division 3, solid races in Division 2, as I'm sure you're aware. Josh 2, he sets his much quicker time, though. It's a 1:29.7 up into P4. But you were talking about track limits, and already we're seeing them have a big issue. Jamie 93 on an out lap right now, trying to head towards the line, but that's an invalidation. But we've seen these track limits get the best of Schiaparelli earlier on. Izat Kush has had a run-in with track limits, and they haven't been the only ones, just the 2 I can think of off the top of my head. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this is all going to play out. Will, I think he set his final lap time, and only 15th fastest, so Will might need to be on a bit of a hope here that it's going to be good enough. But with the likes of Eklund, who's on a lap, and I think he's going to be out of qualifying as he's still in the pits. But even Jamie 93, who's heading around the final corner now with 15 seconds to go, Will might need a little bit of help here. But also, I'm looking at Eklund. That's an invalidation for Eklund. So with 7 seconds to go, I think Eklund is going to be out of qualifying now too. So really, the driver to look out for is Jamie 93, as he's the only driver without a time. And as he's just starting his final flying lap now, he might be the only one who could knock Will out of qualifying 1. But that's definitely not going to work out for him. You can see the frustration as a reoccurring theme here around Coda, track limits. And that got the best of Jamie 93, as you can see visibly frustrated in that Alfa Romeo, sending that car for a spin in the grass. But I think that said, that's going to do it here for qualifying 1.
Definitely, it was a very good qualifying, but I'm seeing some surprises as well, as we're seeing Will, who's out of the session. Also, Jamie right now is going on a lap, if I'm seeing correctly. No, he
was on a lap, but he invalidated his lap.
Yes, he invalidated his lap. And then, that's a big surprise. We saw a very good race from him last week. Definitely not something he was looking forward to get his car in 17th position, but hopefully he will recover during the race. From the other hand, also Eklund, who we know that normally He's also have a good pace, and also he carries out one of the best qualifyings. But right now, Eckland, he's out of the session as well in 16th place. So we also are seeing right now that all the drivers made their first qualifying laps, and I think it's going to be interesting to see who's going to take the pole, as there's no difference at all between Netsky, Ryder Dahl, and Izat Kush. And I know also that Ryan Walter, he's really capable of doing and delivering on that lap. Also, we need to mention Mark. Mark in this Division 2, if I'm not mistaken, he did around 1:29.7. So with that lap time of Division 2, he will be around 8th or 7th place.
Yep, Mark's definitely got a little bit more hidden pace in him as he might start bringing it out closer to qualifying 2, qualifying 3. Will he just makes it through the top 15, all separated by not even less. Ooh, apologies for that, as I just very quickly had to mute my mic. But Will makes it through the top 15, separated by around 8.5 tenths of a second. So as we're jumping into qualifying 2, it's going to be a very, very close battle. But definitely the talking point in Q1 is going to be, well, is track limits here, as the likes of Eklund, Jamie 93, two very, very fast drivers, just that I can name off the top of my head, fell victim to these track limits at probably the worst possible time, right at the end of Q1, unable to get their final laps in. As for Andon, I think he was just stuck, sort of not necessarily on the same sort of running as everybody else. He set his lap times a little bit earlier, but it unfortunately was not enough to make it through into qualifying 2. But speaking of qualifying 2, we are jumping into it right now, and looks like we've already got a few drivers hitting the track. That's Rotation, who's going to be leading the way on the soft tires, but Chapelelli right behind. He's going to be putting on a set of medium tires for his first lap here in qualifying 2. So it appears as though we're going to start seeing maybe a little bit of strategy, possibly some drivers hoping to start their race on the medium tires here. I have heard from Rotation that he feels as if starting the race on the mediums and then getting onto the soft tires at the end of the race is going to be the ideal strategy. But Ephraim, I'm gonna bring this question to you. Do you feel starting on the mediums going towards the soft is better? Do you think doing a soft to mediums is going to be better, or possibly another strategy I'm not considering?
No, that's what I did actually. In Division 2, I started with my medium tires. I qualified in 11th place. So yes, I did a medium soft, but definitely if there's a safety car, it's going to ruin your strategy, and you will see the first few positions, maybe they go for a 2-stop or either 1-stop, because we've seen also that if you have a good pace on those hard tires, you can still manage to do a good lap. But if you are with the mediums in the beginning, there's a lot of traffic in a way, and then you will have the last 10 laps, I think, with softs, you will manage to do a very good race. But also it depends how many safety cars we're going to see, how many virtual safety cars we're going to see, because as you know, virtual safety cars give the drivers an advantage when you have also let's say a type of undercut or overcut between the drivers. But this is going to be interesting also. Right now, the weather, it looks like it's going to be dry. Is the race going to be dry? Confirmed?
I haven't gotten any confirmation about the weather for the race. It seems like we've had relatively dry races the entire way through, and I know rain here in Texas, it's a little hit or miss. I don't see too much rain, but I haven't gotten any indication so far about the weather, so I'm just going to go under an assumption that it's going to be a dry race. Now, Rotation on your screen, he falls victim to track limits through at the end of Sector 1, beginning of Sector 2. That's the end of his lap. Chapelelli, he's still on a decent lap here on those medium tires. And it looks like Izat Kush, and even Jamian are looking to set their first lap times on the mediums. So I think they're going to try to get a lap time in, maybe see where that puts them compared to everybody else. And if they're comfortable with that lap time, making them through into qualifying 3, then they might not even need to set a second lap time on those softs, keep them in their back pocket in case they need them for the race. If, like you said, if we do see those safety cars, maybe a late safety car that drivers can abandon that one-stop strategy, put on a set of softs that can definitely bring them to the end of the race, similar to what we saw in Division 3. Schiaparelli sets a 1:29.980 for his first lap time on the board, so a pretty good lap time, all things considered, on those mediums, given that I think it was right around the 1:29.7s that we've seen, 129, or the low 129s actually here in Division 1. Mark sets a 1:29.8, so like you were saying, Ephraim, a little bit more pace from the McLaren driver, and brought it out here in qualifying too on those soft tires, that 1:29.8 up into a provisional P1 in qualifying 2, still in these early stages. But just like that, very quickly, Ryan Malta, a 1:29.3. He was flying around the track there on those softs, and he takes that provisional P1, and I think that's going to be a very good lap time for Ryan Malta. I think, all things considered, he's probably very happy with that lap time here.
Ryan is not a guy that normally goes for a medium strategy. I know that he is also one to risk a lot, and I think also these drivers are not going to go for much medium tires, because if you not qualify for the top 10, you will not start on the medium. So let's say it's going to be a very interesting situation, as you don't want a lot of wear on those tires. And something else interesting, which is really interesting in fact, about this game, is that if you use a pad, if you use a joystick, you will have more wear than other drivers who are using a steering wheel. This is something that I analyzed by, yes, it happened because those guys who were on the same strategy, but with a pad, they had more wear, and as a tire management, it's much difficult to manage those tires. So definitely, if you are having a steering wheel over here, you have a little bit of advantage regarding the strategy.
Oh, I was actually completely unaware of that. So that's some fantastic insight there from you, Ephraim. I actually had no idea that you had more wear on the pad, but I can see it though. Just given, at least with my experience on the pad, there's a lot more slight adjustments, and it's a bit more jerky, I guess, on the pad when you're taking corners, compared to the wheel, that you can be a little bit more smoother in your movements and work those tires a little bit better. But I'm not too sure what most of these drivers use. I know a lot of them tend to be on the wheel. The only one I know is truly on the pad is Ariel Wouter, who happens to not be here today. So it's going to be hard to gauge, but we'll have to see how it all plays out for some of these drivers. Izat Kush, he sets another lap time on those medium tires, a 1:30.6, only 7th fastest, bottom of the order for the time set so far. With the if I look at the best tires, so might be looking to put on a set of soft tires. I think is going to be Izat Kush, like just about everybody else on the grid now. I think maybe like you were mentioning, they went out on the mediums, gave it a shot, but it seems very quickly that as the class is going towards the soft tires, everybody else is going to follow suit with a set of soft tires for their Q2 laps to try to make it through into qualifying 3. But we'll see here. I'm sticking with rotation as he's heading around a lap right now. Goes purple in Sector 1. Sets a personal best here. Hard to say if it's going to be the fastest Sector 1 time we've seen. We know rotation has the pace to go fastest through the track. It's more of a matter of if he can put that lap together or not. So we'll see how this all plays out. And we'll see what happens as he's heading down this back straight, this DRS straight that should, I'll be honest, probably prove to be the most of the overtaking here in this race, I would think, with the help of DRS once it does get active in the race. I heavily believe that that back straight is going to be where we're going to see most of the moves, similar to what we saw in Division 2 and similar to what we probably saw in Division 3, or at least the parts of Division 3 I was able to see from the cockpit of my Red Bull. But Rotation coming around the final corner now. Let's see what the time is going to be. Keeps it clean. Up into P2 goes rotation, so not fast enough to beat the time from Ryan Malta. It's 129.558 for rotation, but still fairly comfortably should be making it through into qualifying 3 as the clock ticks down now. 6.5 minutes to go. Ryder Dahl, he sets an absolute flyer of a lap. He goes a 129.324, and he goes provisional P1 in that Mercedes, so he had a good lap. I want to keep an eye on Netsky, but Netsky had an invalidation.
In fact, yes, Netsky had a very good lap. He was running very good on those tires, soft tires, but unfortunately he ended up invalidating his lap. And also we need to mention the Chapalele. Right now he's on those soft tires, trying to make a faster lap than he did on the medium tires. So it's going to be interesting to see that all these drivers in the second qualifying, they're going to use all the soft tires. So definitely they're not going to start with a medium tire. So they're going for a 2-stop or either 1-stop with a medium switch at around lap 11, 12.
Yeah, looking like it. And Strapalelli on your screen right now, he goes purple in the second sector, so definitely much faster on those soft tires. Now, I do think, like I said, given the like I was mentioning earlier, with these Division 1 drivers, I think it's going to be pretty much a one-stop for a lot of these drivers. I think they will be able to manage that tire wear well enough to handle the one-stop. As, my goodness, Chapalelli with an absolute flyer of a lap. It's a 128.879. The first driver here today to break into the 128s, or to break below the 129s. So that should be very comfortably through into qualifying 3 for Chapalelli, as he really puts a lap together here in Q2 and goes up to P1 on the timing tables here with 4.5 minutes to go. We have the likes of Netsky, AJ Wuhan, Josh 2, Jamian, who have not set a time yet. AJ Wuhan, though, he just set a time. It's a 129.713. Puts himself up into P6 right next to his teammate of Ferg, who was diving into the pits. So the Ferrari is looking to be in a good position. But with the clock ticking down, I've got to look at Josh 2 and Netsky and think they've really got to get this lap time up here, or they might risk being on the wrong end of the elimination of qualifying 2 here. But
also, Izzat Kush is also running a good lap now that he started this hot lap, as we're seeing him in these S turns, that a lot of the drivers are losing a lot or invalidating their laps. Very good balance also on that setup that he have. It seems that he also running on a low downforce setup, but definitely is going to be a little bit slower in the straights. Let's see what we can do in this first DRS zone of the race.
Yep,
this is going to be one hell straight that we're going to see a lot of moves coming in, and a lot of ERS being spurred as well.
Yep. When I look at the a second and a tenth up on his previous time, so looking to be right around in pace for those around a 129.5 if I'm doing a little bit of quick math there for him. So
in fact, yes, I think he's going to be between 5th and 6th position. So as right now we're seeing that he's closing the 3rd sector as he reached the last corner, getting on his gas over there, and he did it on 129.036. Actually, he's in 2nd place.
Found another
a fantastic 3rd sector by him.
Yeah, found another half a second in sector 3. Puts himself up into P2, just barely missing out on breaking that 129 barrier, but with a near 129 flat. Still an extremely good lap from Izzat Kush. So even here in qualifying between the top 2 drivers in the Drivers' Championship, they're essentially going back and forth here in qualifying, and this is what you love to see. The two leaders really getting at one another here, and this is going to make things, I think, very exciting for what's to come in Q3, and then of course leading into the race as well. I'm looking at the Red Bull of Night, who's coming around the final corner now. Let's see what the time is going to be. It's a 129.9 only quick enough for 12th fastest, so he finds himself on the outside looking in here under here in Q2. And with a minute 45 to go, I think he's going to be pushing for one last lap. Never mind the amount of fuel he's got left in the tank. I think he's going to go for broke here and see if he can make it through into the top 10 on this set of tires here. But he's definitely going to have his work cut out for him. He's going to have to find maybe another 0.2 of a second, if not more, if he wants to be even more comfortable than just a possible P10, especially with the likes of Will, his teammate, on a lap, and Feral Fury on an out lap. Jamie and Mark, Netsky, they're all on out laps. You know, Netsky is gonna put a lap together if he can get it done here. And as he's just about to finish his out lap, start his flying lap, I'm gonna stick personally on board with. I'll jump on board with Netsky as we'll be able to watch him through, take his final lap, and we'll see what it's going to look like here on the from riding on board in that Renault. So across the line he goes, heading towards turn 1 here. Yep.
It looks like it's a confirmation that an OJ rotation. He just confirmed that we're going to have a dry race, so it's going to be dry for the race again. I think this is the that we've seen all races on dry track, no?
Yeah, it looks like it. I think we had I believe, Div 4 I think was a dry race as well. So I believe every race here at USA is going to be a dry race, and I mean, as a driver and a commentator, I kind of enjoy that because it just means that we'll get to see these drivers really push it to the limits. They're not going to be a little bit more tedious with the full West, with the intermediates. Plus, I mean, DRS is going to be active, so down this back straight here that we just saw Netsky go down, a lot more overtaking opportunities here in the dries than what it would be in the full wets. But I mean, as far as pure chaos goes, that's where we like to see races in the full wet conditions, because that tends to bring out safety cars, tends to bring out chaos with these cars on the edge, on a knife edge, just sliding around the corners. Netsky's on a lap, coming around the final corner now, though. At the end of qualifying, what's it going to be for him? He goes up to P4, so that's a very solid lap from Netsky where he needed it the most. Feral Fury, though, he's coming around the sweeping right-hander, and we'll see if he can improve. I believe Mark improved on his time up to P9, so he's looking to be in a decent position here. Feral Fury across the line, is he going to go faster? He does, but it's not fast enough. He'll remain in P15. Now, I think all eyes now are on the likes of Will, who's not on a lap right now, and Jamian, who's coming around the sweeping right-hander. He is up on his time?
He is lower on his time. Sorry.
Lower. Okay, perfect. I think we understood each other there, but just the wording of it. But around the final corner, it's looking to be a good lap for him. A 1:29.6, and he just makes it through into qualifying 3. Finds that lap where he needs it, and that's going to do it here for Q2. So a big shock here. Just looking at the names out of Q2, Josh 2 only down in P12 for the Williams driver. And that's a little bit of a shock, as I very much so would have expected him to be up near the top 5, top 6 into qualifying 3. But Josh 2 is going to have his free choice of tires at the very least, but he is out of Q2. And we will be moving on to qualifying 3 now. It's going to be the top 10 shootout, which will consist of Shapalelli, Izat Kush, Ryder Dahl, Netsky, Ryan Malta, Nathan JB, Endoja Rotation, Ariel Ferg, Jamian, and Mark. With AG1, Josh 2, Will, Knight, and Feral Fury, the 5 drivers eliminated out of qualifying 2, and they will be starting from P11 and P11 to P15 respectively. But once again, similar to Q1, the top 10 now separated by about less than a second, only 0.8 of a second separating the top 10 drivers. So it's going to be very, very close here, I think, once we lead into qualifying 3, once these times really start to fall, to see how much time these drivers can pull when they're pushing to try to snag that fastest lap to go for pole position. But here we go. It is time. The top 10 shootout, the most exciting part of qualifying, in my opinion. 12 minutes of non-stop action as we try to figure out who is going to start from pole position. Let's do it. And I'm gonna ask here, any predictions on who we might see on pole by the end of this qualifying session?
I've seen Running doing a faster lap than what actually was done by Chapelele. So let's see if Ryan still got it. You know, Ryan was not even training for this track because he's training for tomorrow for the Velocity last race. But definitely, I think he will deliver something to be in a very good track position. I think Netsky is one to watch as well, but definitely let's not forget about Ferg. Mark actually, he put the same lap as I think he did in Division 2, because 1:29.7 was the pole position, so I think it was the same lap in the Q2. So I think it's going to be interesting to see now who will take the pole position. Let's ask also our viewers on YouTube. Maybe they can write on chat who will take the pole position. As right now, I would like to shout out to Cohen, also to Milan Van Coperneole. I don't know who's that. And also to Indigo, who's they're all watching and they're all on the stream, writing down their comments. So let's see what they think about it as well.
Have to see as we're watching Chapelele take his outlap. I'm gonna take a bold. I'm doing a little bit of detective work here when I'm looking at the chat. I'm gonna make a bold assumption that Milan in the chat is Nole, or Mivako, as I'll sometimes refer to him as. A big scientific move on my end, trying to put 2 and 2 together. But
Copper Nole.
Yeah, Copernole, and also when I'm looking, formerly known as Mivako, and I'm looking at Mivako with the first 2 letters of the name there. But that's my little prediction. But I'm looking over at already we've got Cohen and Mushroom predicting Chapelele on the screen, going for pole position, and I'll be honest, I might have to agree with them. Chapelele's been pumping out some time trial lap times here through the entire week. I know he and Rotation had a little bit of a friendly wager going on in terms of time trial times here at USA. So I do think that this is going to help out Chapelele with with this qualifying, with getting that perfect lap in. So as long as there's not a bottle, as I know he is also known to do. But you can't take anything away from Isaac Kush either. He's definitely up there. There's a reason why he's second in the championship, and he's been the bane of consistency through the entirety of the season so far. And of course, Rotation in that Haas right now is in a different car, but still the same rotation we know and love here, and we've seen him snag a couple pole positions here in Division 1. So it's still anybody's game to play for, but my money's on Chapelele. And speaking of, he crosses the line. It's a 1:28.766 for Chapelele to kick off this qualifying 3 session. Who is about to cross the line? We'll see. I'll put Ryan Malta on the screen, Ephraim, because I know he's got. I think he's your prediction here. If I gauged right a little bit earlier, so we'll see what his first lap time is going to be as he's heading through Sector 3. Rotation set a 1:29.1. Nathan JB, he went faster than his Div 2 time. He set a 1:29.5. Isaac Kush with a 1:29.2. So we're starting to see low 1:29 start to fall very quickly. Ryan Malta across the line now. It's only a 1:29.5 for his first lap. So I think for Ryan Malta, there's probably more in the tank for him here. Maybe saving some for his second lap here when it matters most, right at the end of qualifying. But right...
Definitely. Also, we've seen Ferg invalidating his lap. Right now, also, Ryder Dahl is on his first lap and it's validated as well. Regarding Mark, I think he's on his first lap exactly, as he started now. And let's see what Mark can do, because I know that Mark is one of the main competitors these divisions, and he's been surprising us very well.
We'll see how he does, and I think I actually got my names mixed up here when I was talking about Nathan JB's 129.5. For some reason, my mind was thinking it was Mark, so apologies for that. Nathan JB, definitely a Division 1 driver, was not in Division 2, so apologies for any confusion. And it looks like, at least as far as I'm seeing from Sprunky, I think he's having a little bit of trouble hearing you from. So I don't know if you'd be able to maybe bump up your that mic volume just a tiny little bit so we can maybe hear you a little bit better, those watching at home. But we'll see what Ferg can...
Mark, he puts his car in the 7th place, and Ferg exactly after him in the 8th place. Is it okay? Is it better now, Sprunky, if you can tell me, please? Because Sprunky is always having issues to hear me, you know.
Yep, and I think Indigo was letting us know too, or from what I'm seeing with the chat,
yes,
we'll get our technical issues.
Now. Yes, okay, very good, okay.
Awesome.
So they're telling me that I'm good now. Okay.
Perfect. And now, funny, I think Mark maybe had the stream open as he was hearing me. Tried to help me out a little bit and actually put out a 129.5. So this time I can say for certain that Mark set a much quicker time than he did in Division 2 with his 129.5 here so far in Q3. Down to 5.5 minutes to go. 9 out of the 10 drivers have their times on the board. Schiaparelli, though, heading the timing tables here with after the first round of laps with a 128.7. Now, of course, this is where we have a little bit of a lull moment here on the track, and it looks like it looks like Mark and Ferg may be having a little bit of a fun race here in Q3 as they're close to one another on the on track, heading towards the pits now themselves. And you know what? I'll enjoy the sight to see here as we've got now Ryder Dahl and Izat Kush exiting the pit lane themselves. They're about getting ready to start what should very well be their final flying laps here of qualifying. So we'll see what they can do. We'll switch over to Ryder Dahl as he's going to be leading the way on the outlap. But this is where the times are truly going to matter. This is where I think these drivers are going to leave everything on the everything on the track, try to find as much time as they possibly can, because this is probably the last opportunity a lot of these drivers are going to have to get a lap time in Q3. So this is where the true battle for pole position really starts. Who's going to take it? Will it be Schiaparelli hanging on to that P1 that he's got with, to be fair, a nice little gap between P1 and P2 looking at the timing tables? Or are we going to see somebody else pull a lap time out of their hat, pull a lap time out of nowhere, and snag that pole position here? We'll find out soon enough. Ryder Dahl heading through Sector 3 now, and we'll see what the lap time is going to be once he kicks things off here for the closing stages of qualifying 3.
He's gonna have around 2 laps time to complete, I think, because he's right now on a 3:30 mark. And if you do it in a good lap, and you can also do another push lap again.
Yep, so we'll see how it'll play out, but he's going to have to stay out on track, though, crucially enough, if he wants to do a second lap, and that might be a bit of an issue with the extra tire wear. Of course, those soft tires tend to be a little bit tend to wear out a little bit quicker. That was purple in the first sector for Ryder Dahl. Was that what you were reacting, or did you see something else that I might have missed on the on track?
No, it's the same exactly what you mentioned right now. A purple sector and a first sector, and I think now the grip is getting much better on the track. So the track evolution right now, it's much for an advantage for those drivers who are gonna do the last lap at the last place, you know. Let's see what Ryder Dahl can continue. He do another sector purple sector that I think right now, if it's going to be maybe a around fantastic lap by him, around 128.5.
But crucially though, but crucially he has no time on the board, and I can speak from experience that on the first official lap time the game loves to give you purple sectors here, but he's heading towards the line. What's it going to be? It's a 129.181 for Ryder Dahl, so either a lot of time lost in Sector 3, which, to be fair, is definitely a possibility, but could very well just be he was getting those purple times with his first lap on the board. Now, Isaac Kush, I'm not too sure. I believe he might be on a second flying lap right now. He's got a 129.2 on the board for his best lap so far, and I think he's looking to go maybe a little bit faster here. As wow, and I just looked at it. I know, oh no, that's Isaac Kush, a big moment, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying 3. Right as I look back up after looking at the chat, losing the car, getting a little bit too much, getting on the power a little bit too quickly, I think, through that section, and that's the end of Isaac Kush's qualifying. But sorry,
he just invalidated his lap as well in the last corner.
So that's a big moment for him, but I think he's going to have enough time to go around one last time. And crucially, he set nearly the exact same time. But I was looking at the chat. Ryder Dahl and Rotation have quite literally the exact same time on the timing tables. They both have a 129.181 here so far. So that is not something you see every day here with two drivers with the exact same time, and unless one of these two have something to say about it, that could be
Ryan also.
Yep, that's an invalidation for Ryan.
Yes.
Not costly invalidation for the AlphaTauri driver there, as that might be his chance at pole position over and done with. And is that Kush going into the grass there? Nathan J. Beast had a 129.4. He goes faster. I'm gonna quickly take a look at Netski now as he's coming through the end of Sector 2. Takes 2/10 off his time, and that was purple in the second sector. So if he can find maybe just a little bit more through Sector 3, he might just be able to push for that pole position here with 3 seconds to go in qualifying 3. Times are going to have to be perfect now. Ryder Dahl, that's his qualifying over and done with. He's in P3 at the very best. Netski coming around the final corner. Oh my, that's Isaac Kush parked up there. And it's a 128.901 for Netski. But very much so, maybe what could have been, as he had to take slight avoiding action on that AlphaTauri of Isaac Kush, I think. Schiaparelli, he's on a lap right now. He's actually going faster this time around by just about nearly 1/10 of a second. Rotation has an invalidated lap time, so that's not going to be any better for him. Let's see who else is on a lap time. Mark's on a lap.
Mark got a slipstream by Nathan JB.
That is
they're doing a little bit friendly as well between them.
Yep, I mean they both do have that the CRL lines in their name. I know Cone Racing League is a little bit of a between ISRL and CRL. We're a little bit of I think we're a little buddy here, if I'm being honest here. Not to not to pitch a little bit here, but I think they were helping each other out. Let's see how that played out for Mark. Schiaparelli's 128.603. He went faster in his second lap time. Mark goes actually slower. He lost a bit of time in Sector 3, I think, as he's going to remain in 8th. Ferg dives into the pits. Nathan's diving into the pits. There you have it. That's the end of qualifying, and it's going to be Schiaparelli in the Alfa Romeo, a familiar face starting from pole position with an absolutely flying 128.6 as his best lap time on the board. Nearly 0.3 of a second faster than second place of Netski. But for Netski, I think it's still a question of what could have been, as he did have to take avoiding action coming around the final corner to not run into the AlphaTauri that was parked right in the middle of the exit line of the track. Ryder Dahl, though, he takes P3, very close and practically, well, not practically, exactly identical time to Rotation, 129.181 for row 2. So very exclusive club is the second row of the grid, with Isaac Kush, Nathan JB on row 3, Ryan Malta and Mark on row 4, with Ferg and Jamie and rounding out row 5, qualifying in 9th and 10th. So solid qualifying there from everybody. But qualifying over and done with, we will be moving on to the main event. The moment I'm always waiting for. It's going to be the start of the race here, and as predicted, nice and dry, sunny skies here for the race. So it does not appear to have any weather implications here for the at least for the start of the race. And if our in-house weatherman has anything to say about it, it should be a dry race the entire way through. But this is going to be a good one. Jamie93, he hits that ready up button a little bit early. I know the stewards tend to not like that too much. And who was that? That possibly might have disconnected from the session. That was Jamie.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Well, I know Jamie hit the ready up button. I'm not seeing. There's Jamie in. So I think it might have been somebody else who might have disconnected out of the session. Not ideal here, so close to the start of the race. And it looks like even more are disappearing. I'm not too sure what's going on here with all of this. Hopefully it can all get sorted out in time for the start of the race. But even more are disconnecting out. This is getting me a little bit worried that there very well could possibly be a restart. And yep, I just got the cue from the commish. We are going to have a lobby restart here for the start of the race. So, apologies to everybody watching at home. I'm going to close the stream for the time being up until we get everything sorted out, but we will be back in a few moments once we get back into the lobby to take us through the race here at COTA for the US Grand Prix. So we'll see you all in just a few moments.